Welcome to the 21st Tallgrass Film Festival. George, so I want to start out with not so much what is Cottage Grove, but where is Cottage Grove? It's an intersection. Please tell me why this intersection means something to you.
Yeah, Cottage Grove is on the south side of Chicago in Bronzeville. And it's funny enough, I went to high school on 49th in Cottage Grove. So it's like I have a personal connection to it. But for the film is loosely inspired by a moment I had with my estranged dad at the time. And I picked him up from the hospital after he had a stroke. And I went to the Walgreens on 51st in Cottage Grove. And we sat in the parking lot and we just listened to jazz music. And that was the first time him and I ever spent that much time together in one space. So I used that as the title, more just as a locale, but also a feeling as well. Like I feel like the story is very much specific to my experience, but universal to a lot of people. So Cottage Grove is a place, but it can be anywhere. That's where I'm going with it.
No, I love that. As far as shelling out the story, I don't want you to give away anything, but how much did you have time with your actors? And because I know production-wise, was it 5 days?
Yeah, we shot for 5 days, and I love rehearsals, but it was still during the pandemic, if you will. So the only rehearsal time I had was with the two lead actors, and we met over Zoom, I believe twice with each actor separately. Wow. But part with that, I sent them a lot of questions, a lot of reading material, a lot of just additional information to like enrich their studying process. I started off as an actor, so I'm very much keen into giving actors as much freedom as possible, but also limitations, because if you don't, they sort of drift away, as most creatives do. So I gave them regimented items for them to like take in on their personal time. So when we got onto set, it was just easy breezy. So I'm very fortunate that I had those two actors, but also the rehearsals were great too.
Most of the shoots look like nighttime, except for the hill stuff at the end. Can you talk about nighttime shoots and what was that like?
So when I wrote it, prior to writing Cottage Grove, I worked on a feature, and it was mostly externals, day and night. And I told myself, I am not going to write a film on externals at night. And look what happened. The film is primarily at night. So at first, I was kind of leery about it. I'm like, how is this going to happen? But while we were shooting, it was super easy. I had the location from my mother's job, so there was flexibility in terms of setup and prep. I mean, we had to make it look like a grocery store every night with, production design. But it was very, very simple. It was 4 days a night, and so easy. I'm very fortunate, because it's, when you think of night shoots, you think of anything that could go wrong. And there's also the stigma about filming on the South Side, that violence and crime, we had such support from the community, and it was quiet as a church mouse every night. So yeah, it was a great experience.
I love it. Yeah. As far as working with your DP, can you talk about shooting in and around a car, and whose car is that? Where's that come from?
Yeah. Again, talking about limitations, I thrive off of that as a creative. Every story has been told, everything has been seen visually. We've seen it, mastered, all that stuff. My perspective is different, and that's what makes the story different. But with working with my DP, that was the biggest challenge that we had, is how do we keep an audience's attention for 13 minutes in a car? So we had several meetings, Gary Walker and I, about what is the intention of this film, going beat by beat with the characters and figuring out where the camera needs to be to enhance those moments as opposed to detract from it. So I think Gary and I met a month in advance, or maybe more, just talking, chatting, sending visual information, like sending clips. I really appreciate our relationship because it was the first time that we met, but we became so in tune with just sharing information that we created a brotherhood. So that in itself was organic by just prepping and just having multiple conversations. So when we got to the shot list, it was like, oh, this makes sense. It was it was really easy. So preparation really helped with the film.
Let's talk about, you have more than 2 actors, but those 2 actors in particular.
Yes.
Let's talk about finding them, and chemistry-wise, I was amazed. I mean, there's a lot of silence, so getting chemistry must have been a key.
Yeah. Again, when I wrote it, I had a sense that I needed powerful actors on screen because there's a lot of subtlety and a lot of history between the characters that needs people that can master that. And when I started the audition process, I first have to thank O'Connor Casting because they were super helpful with the casting process. They took it over. Shout out to Joan, shout out to David. This is for y'all. And they were more concerned about the father role as opposed to the son. I knew I was going to find the Emmanuel character. There's a wealth of talent in Chicago. But for the senior, the father, the pool is limited. And when they sent the audition tape for Sean Blake, I watched it and I got chills. Not only because of his talent, but he sounded just like my father, my dad. And I let my sister watch it, and she was like, "Yeah, that's Daddy." I'm like, "Yeah, that's weird." And with Emmanuel, with Patrick Agata, I knew of him in the city, and I got his audition tape and I was like, whatever. And my sister told me, you need to stop and watch it again. And when I watched it, there was just a toughness and then like a sincereness in his eyes and his performance that I knew, okay, this could be a possibility. We had callbacks, we paired them together, and automatically it was like, this is the group. This is the father and son. And we auditioned other amazing talent, but I just knew instinctually in my heart, these were the people to make this happen. And I think it all goes down to casting. Once you have great actors and they match well, you know, cosmically, it's like that's half of the battle right there. Like everything else was just like super smooth in terms of production and all that. I mean, there was work, but they carried a lot of the weight of the film to bring it to life.
You know, you've brought up your mom, your sister. Yeah. Obviously, this is important personally to you and your family. Was this at all cathartic experience? Was this a release? What did you gain from making this film?
Yeah, it was a release. Prior to me having that moment with my father in real life, I was writing short films. I was writing scripts about a father and son. And they were fine, they were good, but until I had that moment with my dad where we, as 2 men, had to build a bridge together in a car with his stroke, it shifted my perspective and what I needed as a person. So that first draft was an emotional dump. It was just like, oh, you know, Dad, and all the things I wanted to say and things that he wanted to say and frustrations and all of that. And then as I started to rewrite and pull myself away from it, it gave me clearer eyes on the type of relationship I had with my father and also with these 2 characters. So every time I watch it now, it's cathartic even more so because it challenges me to focus on my relationship with my father. We're 2 men from different worlds now trying to still build a relationship, and the heartbreak that I feel for Emmanuel and Senior in Cottage Grove, it doesn't sting as much with my own dad, but it pushes me to build a relationship, to try on my own, to let go of the past and to verge ahead with him. And there's some growing pains, there's some difficulties, but I think the film allowed me to let go of a lot of the hate and anger that I had for him specifically, and to just have a clean slate moving forward.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah. It wasn't amazing going through it, but I think I think that's the beauty of art. It allows for the creative to really work through and expose our soul, so then audiences can examine their own soul as well.
What does it mean to have made it into Tallgrass and knowing that you're going to get a different Midwest feel, even though it's still Chicago, it's still Midwest, but getting a different audience to see this material? How excited are you? I mean, it's tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm very excited. I'm super grateful to be here. Like, Tallgrass has been a wish of mine since finding out about it in film school. And so when I got the notification that Cottage Grove would be here, I'm like, yes, thank you. I think there's something special about Midwest films, and for it to premiere here is just a treat. I'm looking forward to see how audiences take it in. It's very specific in terms of like Chicago and Blackness and Black families, but the theme of Cottage Grove is universal, about forgiveness and reconciliation. So hopefully people here in Wichita at Tallgrass will connect with that, and hopefully they can take that away to use in their own relationships. Yeah, so I'm excited. I'm really excited to hear what audiences have to say afterwards.
Very nice. So I've got to ask, is there an extension of this story? Is there a different version, a longer version? And also, what else is down the pipeline? What else can you share with us?
Everyone asks this question about, especially Sean Blake, who's senior in the film. He's like, this is a feature-length film and all that. And I told him, no. I just love the idea of having a snapshot of this relationship and then leaving it. I think that's the beauty of Cottage Grove. It's like it could be happening anywhere right down the street, between a father-son, a mother and daughter, between any type of relationship, and we wouldn't know that it's happening. So I like the capsule that it is. But moving forward, I still taking the intention and focus of Black men and emotions and relationships into a feature, which I'm nervous about. But I think I'm ready to tackle it based off of Cottage Grove to launch me into it. So yeah, I'm working on a micro-budget feature, and it focuses on an older Black man's exploration of grief after a relationship. Oftentimes in films, I find breakups are not shown through the eyes of men, specifically Black men, and if it happens, it's in a comical tone. And I think heartbreak is, I went through it. Heartbreak is it's life-changing, and I want to see, based off of my relationships with my father and my uncles and older Black men who I find do not allow themselves to be vulnerable, I want to explore that emotional state in a feature-length film.
Wow. I'd love to ask, what did you gain from making this film that you will take to that next film?
I took a lot, but yeah, I took a lot. I think one, on the production side, is to trust your team. I'm huge on collaboration, but prior to Cottage Grove, I was very much writer, director, producer, blah, 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 you know, as you have to be as an independent filmmaker. With this project, I had a group of people who were just as passionate as I was about producing it and making it, that it gave me the freedom to let go and just focus on directing and focus on camera with my DP. So that's one thing, just establishing a trust with the production team. And then I think the second thing is this film really, for myself, solidified my love of writing and my love of slice of life films. I love big time budgets and all that, but my strength as a storyteller, as a director, is simple stories. Simple stories that mean a lot to me and hopefully will mean a lot to audiences, that will make us examine life in a different way. My favorite quote is from Mark Twain, that, you know, truth is stranger than fiction. And we have every genre, but I think the day-to-day interactions with people is really strange. You know, we come with our own things, our own, I don't want to say baggage, our own stuff, you know, and to navigate the world that's ever changing and navigate relationships, whether they're new or, you know, old, is a challenge. And that's what strikes me as a filmmaker, how to showcase life on screen.
Well, in 13 minutes, you definitely moved me. So I can't wait for people to see this. And I definitely want to see more from you. So please keep writing and get us this micro budget feature soon. I'd love to have you back here.
Yeah, I'm writing it while I'm here. So I'm really grateful again for Tallgrass to just give me the space as a creative to ingest art, but also the time to just breathe and create as well. So I can't wait to be back in the future.
We're going to use that for the commercial.